Okay, you are going to start working on a CNC project, and this I like to call this the acrylic nameplate. They look like this. They're cut out on the laser out of a piece of acrylic, the color of your choice, the ones that we have. Then we heat them up with a heat gun and we bend them to kind of sit on a table, a desk, a shelf, something like that. Now, I call them nameplates. They don't have to be your name. It could be your first name, your last name, your mom's name, brothers, dogs, whoever. Okay. The thing is, you just don't want to use a whole lot of letters, because the more letters you use, everything gets kind of shrunk down, and then it doesn't. It's more fragile and could break. All right, so we are going to be doing this in Illustrator, which remember is in Itopia. So we have to get to there. Make a new tab, go to CFISD bookmarks, go to mycfisd.net. Then when you get to there, you're going to search for Itopia, I-T-O, and it should come up soon. You won't have this one, but you will have this one. So you'll click on that one. That will take you to a page that looks like this. And you're going to use this one, the Robo Master Image, and click Connect. It takes a little bit of time to do that. So you click Connect and then open up that session, and you should eventually get to this. Now remember, in Itopia, the first thing you do every time, hopefully at this point it's you're starting to learn this, but you need to sign into your Google Drive. So you're going to open up Google Drive, and you're going to click Get Started down here, and then sign in. And it's going to pop up another window where you're going to put in your school Google email. Now, if you forgot what this is, then I made this for you to look at. If you want to pause the video now, you can, but it's your first initial, the first three letters of your last name, a 0, and then the last 3 digits of your student ID at stu.cfisd.net. Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead on this part so you don't have to watch me log in, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, then you type your thing, your password, you hit sign in, and then it says success. It means you're good to go. So you can close this window. That window will close. Okay, now we're ready to open up Illustrator. Make sure hit OK on that. Open up Illustrator. Now, if you want to make your thing full screen, okay, once you've watched the video and you kind of know what you're doing, you don't have to switch back and forth. To go full screen, you click over here on the right hand side, this black and white icon, and you're going to click full screen right there. Now, I'm not going to click that because I need to show you some other stuff, but when you get to here, you're going to click continue with Google. It should, since you've already signed in, it should sign you in. If not, it's the same email and password, company or school account. You're all set. You can close this window and go back to here now. Alright, now let's talk about some things before we get started on the actual design of this, things that you might do wrong, so maybe you won't do these things. First thing is, if you're doing, because we're going to type and then we're going to move the letters together so they overlap and then kind of merge them together. You got to make sure that you're selecting, if a letter has different things inside of it, you're going to make sure you select both things. Like this person here moved the middle part over too much or something. They didn't move together, and so now they don't line up. This one here is the rectangle below it is too small. So when we bend this, because we're going to heat this right along right here, and when we bend that, that's too small, and so it makes the words are too heavy, and so it kind of tips over. On this one here, the letters, if you use lowercase, which you can, if you use lowercase and it goes below the baseline, like this G goes below the baseline, then this person moved it up to where that was barely touching, but then all these letters aren't touching, and so this one actually broke because those things weren't supported. Now, you could move this down to where these letters are on the rectangle, which you'll see in a little bit, but then sometimes these lowercase letters don't look like the same letter. I'll show you that in a minute. This one here, this rectangle is too big, and there's just not enough room on our laser to cut things out, so you got to make these the right size. So you got to follow directions. This one here, if you use lowercase and you're using letters like J or I that have the little thing above the letters, then that won't be there because that just gets cut out and it's just going to be a piece on the laser and it's not attached. So you can do one of two things. You can use an uppercase letter or you can move this thing down to where it overlaps this. Now, sometimes that looks funny and people don't like the way that looks. Other times they like it. It's just you try it and see, and if you don't like it, then undo it and delete it. And this one here, this is Benjamin, and this J, see this J, it doesn't, you can't even see it. It looks like Benjamin because this J got merged because it went down below the baseline. So you just gotta adjust it whatever you like. This one here, they didn't touch the letters together, and so this isn't that bad of a mistake. It would still work. It could still bend. It's just sometimes these letters will break more easily because they're not connected, and it's just a weaker part. So this is what it should look like. You have two choices when we actually bend these. You can bend them right at the letters, or you can bend them a little bit above, and this bottom part doesn't break as easily. So I would suggest that, but you can do this if you'd like to. Okay, back in Illustrator. Okay, we're going to get rid of that. Okay, we're going to click New File, and we're going to, in mine I did this earlier, but you're going to highlight this and type 8.5, hit Tab twice, or use your mouse and go down to this one and type 6. So we want 8.5 inches. Make sure it's inches. 8.5 inches by 6, and hit Create. Now, just so that your screen looks like mine, I'm going to get rid of some of these things and then put them back on there just so you can see this, because I would suggest that you do this, and it looks like it saves it, so you don't have to keep doing this every time, but just do it one time. So first, we're going to have some settings up here that I want you to have just to make it a little bit easier. Click Window, Navigator, and it pops this thing up, and it might be over here. You can click this header, this bar at the top, and move this wherever you want. Okay, you can attach it to this right here where it's stuck to the side, but that takes away some of your screen real estate, so you might not like that. You can also just kind of put it like this where it's up there floating. But with this, you can zoom out and zoom in, and you can also move this thing around the screen by dragging that box. So it's kind of nice. If you don't have a mouse, I would suggest getting a mouse so you can move a little bit easier. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to click Window Align. And again, this might not, let me show you where it puts it on yours. I think it puts it out here, kind of floating in space like this. I'm going to take this, I'm going to click on this bar at the top. I'm going to drag it over here, and I'm going to move it into this, not attached to that blue line like that, but in there like that. And it puts it in here. Okay? And if Navigator's in the way, you can move this. So we're going to use the Align. We're also going to use this Pathfinder, but they both come up when you do Align. So I'll show you both of these in a little bit. Okay, so now you're ready to type. So we're going to get the text tool, which is right here. We're going to click it. Don't drag a box with the text tool. Just click one time and let go. And it puts some dummy text in there. It's just so you can see what the font looks like and the size before you start typing. But I'm going to do my last name in all caps, just so there's nothing going below, anything like that. Now, once you've typed what you want, don't start changing the fonts yet. Just go up here to the selection tool, click it, and let's resize this. Okay, you can change this number, but it's just easier to grab this corner handle and drag. Now, if I drag though with the corner, you can see that I can stretch it this way, make it up and down. If I hold shift while I do this, then it stays in proportion. I'm also going to move just by clicking right here and moving this down, and I'll show you why in a minute. But I want it kind of at the bottom of the screen for now. Alright, now we need to change the font, and this is where I would spend a lot of time just trying to find the best font. And with your Adobe school login, you have a bunch of fonts you can use. Okay, they're all right here. You can also, what works better for this project is thicker fonts, and so you can sort this thing. If you click up here, this filter icon, you can say, hey, I only want to see heavyweight fonts. So it gets rid of all those thin fonts, so things that might break. So that's what I want. Also, if you look through here, and I mean there's a lot, but there might not be the ones you want. You can add some. Like some of these I've added. This little cloud means I've added them. To add things, you click on Find More. And it takes a while, especially if everybody's in here and the Wi-Fi is going a little slow. You gotta wait. And it's still filtering, so heavyweight fonts. And you can look through here, and there's way more fonts, and these are just the thick fonts, so you can find one you like. Alright, let's say I like Let's find one that I haven't used already. Let's say I like this one. Okay. Now, see how you can't see the letters? Okay. One thing you can do, let me kind of click off of this, is if I click the wheel mouse, if I click the wheel and hold it, not roll it, but hold it, I'm going to move this where the window's kind of at the bottom. Then, when I'm doing this, so I select the text again, go up here. Now I can see the letters better because they're below this window. So find more. Let's find one. Okay, so let's just look through this list. Sure, this one looks good. So now this letter or number next to this means there's two things in here. If I click this, there's this one here, and then there's italics. Let's say I like this one. Okay, what I would do is, you can't just click here, you got to click this cloud icon and it will activate it. So you got to give it some time. This takes a while sometimes. Okay, that worked pretty fast, but sometimes it takes a while. Now I have my font, and it takes some time for it to load in. Give it a little bit. I can also go back up here and look at this list and click just the ones that I activated, and I can find it. Just for the sake of the video, I'm going to move on. Oh, there it is right there. Okay, so there's the font I want. Okay, now I can move this thing up a little bit where it's kind of in the middle of the page. And it doesn't matter right now that it goes off the screen because we're going to resize it in a little bit. Alright, now once you've got the font you want, alright, the next step is to turn that font into shapes. You can't just have a font, you got to have it in shapes. But once you change this, what I'm about to do, you can't change the font. Okay, you also can't change it if you misspelled it. So make sure at this point, make sure it's the font you like and it's also spelled right. Okay, so now with it selected, I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say create outlines. You can also do Shift Control O if you want. Create outlines. What that does is it changes into a shape. Next thing is, after it's a shape, I'm going to ungroup this because I want to move all these letters to where they're touching. Now, before I do that though, I'm going to change it to where I can see through these letters. So I'm going to select this. Over here on the right hand side, you should see this appearance. I'm going to click the fill. Fill means the inside of the shape. I want the fill to be nothing, which is that right there. And then I want the stroke, which is the outline, to be black. Alright, so there it is. So now I can see it a little bit easier. I can see when they overlap and how much they overlap. I'm going to select it again just by left clicking on it, and now right click and say ungroup. Now you can't really tell, but what happened is now that all these things are different, they're separate. This is separate than this and this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move everything over to the R first. So I'm going to highlight. Watch what I do. I just draw a box around this so it selects just those letters, and don't use the mouse here because if you use the mouse you might move it up and down and then the baseline changes. So just use the arrow keys and just move it over. And this just kind of depends. Like I want it to be, let me zoom in with the navigator a little bit, show you how this works. See, I want it to overlap here and I want it here just so it kind of holds on better. Okay, it could be like this where it's overlapping the top but not the bottom, and then that just might not be as strong. So I'm going to move it over a little bit to where they're overlapping. There we go. Let's zoom out a little bit. Move it over. Now I'm going to just select this other letters. So this part. And then use the arrows and move that over. Okay, it's overlapping there. I'm going to select just these three letters now. And move it over with the arrows. Okay, it's at the bottom, not the top, but that's okay because the bottom is kind of where everything's held together. Select the A and the U. Move that over, and then select just the U and move that over as well. Now this one I got to kind of move a lot because it's got a touch down there. Alright, now what I do is now I'm going to select everything, highlight all of it, and then with your Align tool, we're not going to use Align, but we're going to use Pathfinder, which is right here, or this icon, same thing. And where you do this first one, this is called Unite. When I click this, watch what happens. All those things now are one shape. Everything is combined. That is what I want. I want that to be all one shape. Now I want it to be a certain size. So up here, in the top right up here. And if you don't see this because maybe your screen's too small, this is when you might want to go over here and do full screen right there. Okay, now the width, you want it to be 8, but right here this means constrain the width and the height so it moves in proportion. So it's up to you. Okay, if you did this but you leave this unconstrained, then it's just going to stretch it to the left and right but not move up and down, and maybe that's what you want. Okay, watch what happens if I do 8. It just stretches it left and right. Let me undo that. If I check this, now it's linked together. Now when I change this to 8, the height is also going to change. So it's not going to look any different. It's just going to get wider. Okay? So it's up to you what you want to do. All right, but now I'm going to leave it like this. I have it at 8. Okay? Now the next step is I'm going to draw a rectangle. So click the rectangle tool, left click, come down here and just left click one time. Don't try to drag a box. Don't do this. Okay, let me undo that. Just click the rectangle tool and left click one time, and it'll ask you what size you want to make the rectangle. I want to make this rectangle the same width, 8, as the letters. I'm going to hit tab to go down, and I want it to be 2.75 inches. So 8, 2.75, hit OK. Now I'm going to get the selection tool because I'm done drawing rectangles, and I want this to line up with this. So watch how you use this. We're going to use this now. We're going to use the align tool. Watch how you use this. So this is selected. I'm going to hold shift on the keyboard and select this also. So now both things are selected. Okay. Now I'm going to click on the letters one more time. Now I let go of shift. I click and see how this turned to dark blue. This is making this the key object. So it's going to move this and align it with this. So this is going to stay still. This up here is what I want. I want the horizontal aligned center. So watch what happens to the rectangle when I click this. It moves over to where it's perfectly in line. Okay, so click off of the box, click on the rectangle so it's just that selected, and use the arrow, don't use the mouse, use the arrow and move this thing up. You want to move this up to where it is just inside there. You don't want to take too much of the bottom letters away because they'll disappear. You want just a little bit. Okay? And sometimes some fonts go down further in different places, and so make sure that each letter is attached. If you want to zoom in at this point, you can zoom in and use that navigator to move. So look, every letter is connected. That's what you want. Alright, now once that is the case, I'm going to just drag a box out around both things so it selects everything. Go back to the Pathfinder and click Unite again. And now that is what I want. It is the right size left and right. It is the right size up and down because this is really, it's just this rectangle is the right size. Now what I need to do is I just need to save it. So remember, you're going to go to File. You got to do Save As this time. Actually, it doesn't matter because I've never saved it. So if I click Save, it's going to prompt me to save it. So I'll just do Save. Now, if this comes up, you can uncheck this if you don't want to see this again. Okay, but we want to save this on our computer, not to the cloud, because you can't get the file from the cloud into Schoology to turn it into me. So save on your computer. Give it a second to think. Okay, now up here, I don't know where it's going to want to save it for you. Okay, it might be in Documents or something, but don't save it in Documents. All right, you got to go up here to this PC, or you can just do it right here, whatever works. Google Drive, go to My Drive. You should have an engineering folder. You should have an Illustrator folder. If not, just put it somewhere where you know what it is. But then look what we're going to do. We're going to name this, and you got to name it the right way. We're going to name it the class period number first. So let's just say you were in first period 1. Your last name. Okay, not mine. Your last name. Last name, no spaces. And then the last thing I need, this is important, I need you to pick what color you want. Okay, and you're going to type out a word. I'll show you the words. You're going to type out the word of the color that you want. So here, remember I showed you these yesterday in class. Here's the color choices. So if you wanted orange, these first ones are the solid ones. So orange, black, maroon, blue, or red, that's those up there. And then if you wanted those see-through ones, type see-through orange, neon green, light blue. and you're going to add that to the end of your file name, whatever it is. So let's say I wanted neon orange. I would type neon orange, or green, sorry, neon green. And then I save it. Okay? Because when I get all these files, I need to know whose it is, and I also need to know what color you want me to cut this out of. So you hit save, hit OK on this, and then if you go to Schoology, where you started this video, below all this stuff is the place you turn this in. All right? And again, I've set it out here. If you want class period number first, last name, acrylic color choice. So you would turn that in here. Okay? Then the last thing, if you do finish this and you have a lot of time, I know this video is a little long, but if you finish this and you have some time left over, it's not there yet, but it will be there. There will be some things listed out here under early finishers, things that you can do. Some 3D printing, some different extension activities you can do to pass the time. Playing games is not an option. Don't do that. All right, have fun.